B'Shem Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're here back in Ner Avraham in Aventura, Florida, and our weekly shiur on the Igeret Ramban. Nachmanides wrote us a beautiful letter almost 800 years ago. We've been reviewing it over the last few months. Today's shiur will be for a refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, for Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, David ben Esriya, Doris bat Jora, Ariel ben Debbie, Debbie bat Chana, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, and Joshua, what's the name again? Tzipora? Esther bat Tzipora, Dvorah bat Mercedes, Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, Batya bat Sarah, and Yochevet bat Batya. Bezat Hashem will have refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, and all of Am Yisrael, Bezat Hashem, will have it as well. So we're back in our Igeret Ramban, our series. Baruch Hashem, it's a very deep series analyzing each and every one of the sentences in the letter that the Ramban wrote to his son and all of the students that would follow many, many years ago. And throughout the years, many of the Chachamim, throughout all of the generation, took the eitzah, the suggestion that the Ramban made to his son, which is to read this letter every week. He says in the letter, if you read this letter every week, you'll have a lot of blessings in your life. And it's a very important letter. And again, sometimes you first discover something in a Torah, a new sefer, a new chidush, a new igeret, a new letter. You want to read it again and again, and it's good. But sometimes you lose steam after a while. You know, for example, there is a sgula for parnasah that many people do, at least for a short period of time, which is to read the parashat Haman, the parasha that talks about the manna bread, of how Am Yisrael got the manna bread, the food from heaven. And this is a very good sgula to read daily for parnasah. Now, there's also other sgulot for zivug, there's sgulot for different types of things that people want to get in their life. But one thing that you have to know as like a small print disclosure that really should be the big print. Sgulot don't work if you're a rasha. This is something that a person needs to know. And a rasha doesn't mean that you are a evil person that murders people on the street like Hitler. Doesn't mean that. Rasha is just simply a terminology for someone that forsakes the mitzvot of Hashem. He knows that he's not allowed to drive on Shabbat, but he drives on Shabbat. He knows he's not allowed to eat anything that moves. He only is allowed to eat something that's kosher, but he decides to eat anything that moves, and sometimes if it doesn't move, he just kicks it and it moves. He knows that he's only allowed to look at his wife, but he wants to look at every woman. He knows that he has to watch his brit and look and understand what Chazal said about watching your brit, to the extent where someone that's holy looks at their brit as if it's their finger. They don't get all of these crazy thoughts as soon as they see themselves naked. They see that this is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, and the brit is the yesod, both for a man and for a woman. But the point is that he knows that he has to watch his brit. He watched a few clips that we've made about watching his brit, but he decides, maybe one time, a month, a week, a day, whenever I feel like it. So the Zohar Kadosh says that a Jew that wastes seed, even if he learns Torah, all of the Torah that he learns goes to the Sitra Achra. All of it goes to the Satan, gives koach to the Satan. That's how much a wasting seed is valued in the eyes of Hashem. Meaning that even if you're doing mitzvot, but you continue violating the brit, you continue violating the Torah, the mazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you, the shefa that He wants to give you, all the reward that He wants to give you, is unfortunately going to be wasted on others. So that's why sometimes people, they call you crying, they're 45, 55, 65 years old, they haven't been married, they don't have any kids, the guy is 60 years old, all he has is a pit bull, he doesn't have anything else, she's lonely at 50 years old, she doesn't understand why. If you analyze your actions, you can see why. Maybe not today, maybe not yesterday, but it could have been 10 years ago, and until you do tshuva for it, all the sgulot in the world are not going to help you. I have people calling me all the time or sending me messages all the time about trying to help them for different things. And they're very, before I talk to anyone about helping them, I ask them a bunch of questions. And many times people are very confused by the questions. Because they're telling me, for example, that they have a son that's off the derech. Or that they haven't been able to find a shidduch. Or that they're having problems with parnasah, and I'm asking them, how much time do you learn Torah every day? In their mind, they're like, what does it have to do with it? What, if I learn, then a woman's going to appear at my house and marry me? If I learn, my son is going to go back on the derech? If I learn, I'm going to get mochizuk. How is it going to affect my son that's now married to a goya? Like, how is it going to affect it? So I ask people all the time questions about themselves, because I know that those people didn't come to me as the first choice. Usually I'm the last choice. Usually I'm the guy that's like 911, Mayday, we have no other choice. So can you give us something? Why? Because they've already tried everything else. They tried baking challah with 500 women. They tried reading Tehillim with 600 women. They tried having maybe a shiur or two in the community. They tried all types of other sgulot. They tried donating a few dollars to some local bet knesset that tells you it's okay to drive on Shabbat or doesn't say anything, which is almost the same. They tried all the other stuff and nothing worked. 5 years, things got worse. So finally they go to me because maybe they watched a movie and they saw I went to a similar tikkun and so on and so forth. But the reality is, Rabotai, is that if you actually watch the entire movie, you'd understand that none of the blessings that Baruch Hashem we live with and enjoy on a daily basis today were active, were even possible, were even open, or even showed us any sign of life until we started doing tshuva. Donation, I donated plenty of money. Shurim, I went to a few shurim. Hosting people, all types of things. All those different things, I did it. I had all types of Kabbalistic things in my own, all that stuff. Nothing worked. Why? Because the sgulot is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu designates for His people. We cannot be considered His people so long as we forsake Him. If you're going to continue walking around with a mini skirt, even though you are still His daughter, you're the daughter that's like, He's not so happy with. So He's not going to give you a reward and change nature for you and find you some zivug from Antarctica that's actually a tzaddik and wants to do all the good things in the world, so long as you continue walking around like this. He's not going to make nature change for you so long as you drive on Shabbat. Yeah, but I only drive to Bekneset. Okay, so where does it say in the Torah that you're allowed to drive to Bekneset on Shabbat, on Yom Tov? The point is, Rabotai, it's very, very important for us to tell ourselves and tell our friends and family and so on that yes, there are many, many criminals that have a much bigger beard than me, and some even a smaller beard than me. They're going to tell you, give me some money and all of your problems will go away. They call themselves mekubalim, they call themselves all types, tzaddik balair, all types of things that they give themselves. They have achnasat people, they have all the, 500 people show up looking for a miracle. 99.9% of those people will come with something, leave empty-handed, and stay empty-handed. Why? Because unless that mekubal is a real mekubal, he's not going to tell you that, really, if you want all the blessings in the world, you have to start with tshuva. Yeah, but I'm already religious. Exactly, do tshuva. You think you're religious enough. Yeah, but nobody else told me to be religious. Okay, that's the point. That's why you have to do it. If the Mekubal does not tell you to become more religious, closer to Hashem, work on your midot, work on your Shabbat, work on your all of the character traits that are flawed that each one of us have, none of the sgulot are going to work. They're not going to work. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give these special miracles to people that are trying to do better. And it's important for us to pray for Am Yisrael on a day-to-day basis, because most of Am Yisrael does not know this. They continue going to these criminals, giving them a bunch of money. They continue donating to places that might as well be a parking lot instead of a Bet Knesset. They continue to go to a bunch of different rabbis that might as well be priests instead of rabbis, that simply are just manipulating you to give them your money. And they're giving you some false hope that, and a false smile that everything is going to be okay. The only thing that's going to be okay is that their bank account will grow. That's going to be okay. It's important for us to know this, because tshuva is the ikal. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from every single human being that's alive, Jew or Gentile. Every person is obligated to do tshuva every day. This is the reason why we're doing all of these shurim. This is the reason why I have to leave my beautiful kids at home and their little sad faces and come over here. This is the reason why, whether I'm sick or I'm not sick, I still have to come. Because there's just not that many people that are telling people to do tshuva in English. So you're stuck with me. The reality is, Rabotai, is that we have to know that tshuva is never finished. Never. You're alive, you have to do tshuva. You're never religious enough. You're never close enough to Hashem. You could always do more. And I promise you, if you try more, you'll see more. You'll benefit more. Not just in Olam Haba. Here too. You start feeling things, seeing things. But if you think that you're finished, you're done, unfortunately you're going backwards, because there's no such thing as a Jew that's on neutral. He's either going up, closer to Hashem, or he's going down. Rahman al-Itzlan. So, all of these shurim are going to constantly repeat the message of tshuva, because that's the ikal. If you look at and you listen to all of the chachamim in every one of their sfarim, whether it's a sefer about halacha, or it's a sefer about musar, or it's a sefer about chasidut, or it's a sefer about anything, they're always going to tell you that you have to do tshuva. Someone did tshuva in order for you to learn from this lesson, that you have to do tshuva. That's the key. Now, so sometimes when you come to a shiur, you get a special privilege. The privilege is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the speaker siyata dishmaya just for you. He gives him special assistance from heaven just for you, where he's going to put words in his mouth specifically to cater to you. Now, sometimes we are so arrogant that we don't think it's for us. We think it's for everybody else. The rabbi is talking about Shabbat, and we're thinking, well, I keep Shabbat already. So I don't even know why maybe I should leave early, because he's talking about Shabbat. He's probably going to talk about Shabbat for another 15, 20 minutes. Maybe we just jet out of here, get to sleep a little early, wake up a little early, and learn more different, really, Torah that's relevant to me. If you're in a lecture, the entire lecture has to do with you. Some things more, some things less. Some things more, some things less. Each one of us can improve our Shabbat. Each one of us can improve Midot. Each one of us can improve our Tarat Mishpacha, and so on and so forth. So, the special treatment that you get when you come to the shiur is that Kadosh Baruch Hu will give the speaker something just for you. And you have to be humble enough to know that it is for you, and not just for everybody else. Even if you're already doing the best you can, Kadosh Baruch Hu is reminding you, good, stay this way. Stay this way. You're doing the best you can? Okay, keep going this way. Why? How are you going to stay doing your best? By constantly getting chizuk on the same mitzvah. Even if you're the most modest woman you know. You're going to hear a shiur about modesty. Why? To get chizuk so you stay modest. Even if you keep Shabbat, k'ilchata, you are... people come to your house just to learn Ilchot Shabbat, just by looking at you. You should still listen to shiur about Shabbat. Why? To get chizuk so you stay that way. And don't believe any type of fairy tale that there's a shortcut of some kind. That if you do something, if you buy something, or if you do a certain thing, it's all going to work automatically. Everything has a prerequisite, which is tshuva. All of this gulot in the Torah. So, with that being said, the Ramban told us this letter is for us. It's for all of us. And each one of the sentences in this letter is another instruction of how we can improve our midot. How can we improve our character trait? Now, for the first section, or even more than half of what we've done so far, the Ramban discussed not being angry, not being a person that loses his mind. Somebody cuts you off on the highway, you start throwing stuff, you start cursing. When a person really understands what it means to curse, what it means to make a swear word in Judaism, really, they'd feel bad about it. I know a woman, she saw a few of my shiurim, Baruch Hashem, and it happened to be that in those shiurim, I discussed what it means to Hashem when you use this holy mouth of yours to curse, to say a swear word. She understood it. It hit our neshama. One time, one of our kids really made her upset. Did something really annoying. And even though she doesn't typically curse, she cursed. But the second it came out, like the venom that came out, she felt like she wanted to die. She started crying hysterically to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because why? Now you may think she's crazy, maybe she's overdoing it. No. She's not overdoing it. She knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like cursing. Why? Because you use this mouth to talk to him. You use this mouth to pray to him. And Chazal says that if you curse, even if it was decreed in Shamayim for you to get 70 years of blessings, that one curse could turn it into 70 years of curses. Baruch Hashem, she cried enough where she actually got mamash, a sign. She told me. She got a sign that day. That day she got a sign that tshuva was accepted. Not all of us have such merit. The point is, Rabotai, the more we know about the danger, the more we protect ourselves from it. It's not a matter of scaring you constantly just for giggles. There's no pleasure out of scaring people by explaining to them the magnitude of the sin. There is a pleasure in seeing people not sinning, in seeing people improve their life and getting closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's very sad to me that many times people call me and they tell me, listen, why don't you do something and talk to my son or talk to my daughter or talk to my husband, and then I ask them questions about them, and I tell them, listen, why don't you do this, this, and this, watch my movie, watch this lecture, work on yourself, and like, what does this have to do with what I'm asking you about? I'm asking you about Shlom Bayit, you're telling me to watch a Torah lecture. I'm asking you to help my son do tshuva, you're asking me to watch a Torah lecture. I'm asking you to give me an idea for Parnassah, you tell me to watch a Torah lecture. It's always the same instructions. Why? Because you're calling me. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you, you need to do tshuva. No one calls me and says, hey, how you doing? And if they do, I don't pick up anyway, because I have to help all the other people trying to do tshuva. If we are in touch, if you are watching this right now live, or tomorrow, or in 5 years from now, that means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you, you have to do tshuva. Yeah, but I already did it. Okay, do more. Do more. There's always to do more. You know why I'm giving the lecture? I have to do tshuva. Yeah, but what about the story that you already did tshuva? No, I started. The story is about my start of doing tshuva. Tshuva continues forever. The Ramban is trying to tell us already for the first 3 quarters that part of tshuva is to work on our midot, specifically stay away from the danger midah of anger. Then he moves on and he starts talking about humility and arrogance. How despicable this is in the eyes of Hashem. We discussed it briefly last week, about how Kadosh Baruch Hu does not like the arrogant, he loves the humble. But we'll go a little bit deeper into it today because it pertains to something that I believe is poisoning many, many people in their day-to-day life at the place that they would never think it is. Many people go to Bet Knesset, watch shiurim online, do all types of things as their way of getting closer to Hashem. They go to school, they have their Rabbi, they have their Rabbanit, they have their whoever, the teacher, and they rely on these people in all of these holy locations, or at least what is supposed to be a holy location. They're relying on them to give them the truth, to give them the instructions from Hashem, to give them chizuk to keep going. But many times, they're getting the wrong instructions. But they don't ever think for themselves that this is the wrong instructions. Like when a woman said recently in one of our groups that she goes to church for some type of job activity. She's getting some job training. And she saw in one of my lectures that going to a church or even being next to a church hurts your neshama. So much so that the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says it's better for a person to go next to a bet zonot, a place of prostitution. To pass by that, even risking the fact that one of these prostitutes will be outside to entice him, than to go next to a church. Why? Going to a church, going next to a church. Forget about inside the church. That's kal v'chomer. That's needless to say. Going next to a church is so damaging to the soul, to the neshama, that it's much worse than prostitute, immodesty. That's what the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says. Obviously, neither one of them is allowed. But if you only have two choices, like they had in this Gemara, they had to go from point A to point B. They got to a fork in the road. On the right, it's the Bet Zonot. On the left, it's the church. One of the Chachamim says, okay, so let's go by the church because at least we won't look at the girls in case they're outside. Chacham says, no. Halacha is we have to actually go by the Bet Zonot and not next to the church. This is why. He says because in the place of immodesty, the prostitution, we close our eyes. Even if they're there, we don't have to see them. We could choose to overcome it. The church, there's no choice. No choice. Why? If you just pass by it, the tumah hits you. You pass by it, tumah affects you. You go inside, Rachmana litzlan, you may not come out the same. So when a woman says, oh yeah, I go for job training. In a church, we said, you're not allowed to go. No, but the rabbis over here says it's good. Because it's for work. Now can you blame this poor woman? You can't call this woman, oh, she's evil, she's bad, she's going against Hashem. She tried her best. What'd she do? She asked the rabbi, the local rabbi, the puppet over there, and the puppet told her, hey, listen, mitzvah, go for job training, go, even look at Yoshke and say hi. Go to the church. Why? It's for you have to make parnasah, right? Like there's no other way to make parnasah in the world. You have to make a sin on the way. You can't blame the woman. You can't blame her. She went to the rabbi. Up to now, her judgment will be very, very minimal. Why? She didn't know and she went to a rabbi that steered her the wrong way. But now that she knows, if she continues, Rachmana litzlan, because now she knows, and she chose now to continue, can't go up to Shemayim and say, no, I never knew. No, you knew. A few people told you, you're not allowed. Yeah, but the other one said I'm allowed. Okay, at the very minimum, you would have had, now that you heard two opinions, you would have had to go back to the original that said allowed and say, can you show me what you said in a book? Can you show me a source that says I'm allowed so when I go up to Shamayim, they're not going to rip me in half? Can you show me in a book that Rabbi Yosef Karo, that the Rava, that Abaye, that somebody says it's allowed, even if it's someone, let's say, from recent generation, 30, 40 years ago. Someone wrote in a book it's okay to go get job training inside a church. Rabotai Yekarim, your neshamot are very, very precious. And the Satan is doing everything possible to destroy them. Sometimes he's going to come to you in the form of a rabbi, or a rabbanit, or a principal, or a classmate, or a brother, or a father, or a mother. It's going to come to you in all different shapes and sizes. You have to be strong. And the only way to do that is by being glued to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Always verify everything. Don't trust anyone, including me. I want to see it in a book. If it says it in the book, I don't need a second opinion. It's in the book. Some Chacham said it. If they complain to me in Shemaim, I did such and such. Hey, hold on a second. You have this such and such book? Okay, let me see it. Here, page 37, B, over here. Oh, okay, you have it in the book? No problem. If it's in the Gemara, if it's in Shulchan Aruch, if it's somewhere that some giant said it, you have something to rely on. But if somebody said it to you, it's not enough. It's not enough. The Yerushalmi says, what if the rabbi's wife is doing such and such? Can we just rely on the rabbi's wife, the Rabbanit? Can we just rely that if she's doing such and such, it's allowed? Gemara says, who says we learn from how people behave? We learn from books. We learn from Sfarim, from Psak Halacha. That's how we learn. That's Judaism. That's why the Jewish people, despite all of the anti-Semitism and the pogroms and the inquisitions and everything else that they tried to destroy us 1,000,000 times over, they will never succeed. Why? We stayed glued to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the books. Without internet, without WhatsApp, without Facebook, without YouTube, without nothing. Through the books. That's what saved Am Yisrael. That's what saves Am Yisrael. We have to stay close to our tradition, Rabotai. But you have to remember, the Satan is not off. He's not on vacation. He's going to continue working. He's going to continue trying to steer you the wrong way. And you have to know that you have to have a source for everything. Now the Ramban gave us many sources of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates certain character traits. But now he's giving us an instruction set of how to acquire this gluedness, this complete connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is by acquiring the character trait of humility. And in so many words, he gives us a 4-step process. A 4-step process of 4 specific things, actions, actual actions that a person must do in order to even try to acquire this amazing character trait of humility. Why is humility something so praiseworthy in the eyes of Hashem? Few reasons. Number one, if you're humble for the right reason, because you understand who your Creator is, that already shows that you have a connection. Number two, if you're humble, you understand your own worth. On the good side and the negative side. On the good side, that you are Tzelem Elokim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is put literally. Part of your neshama is Him. Part of your neshama is Him, every Jew. Part of your neshama is Him. That's what keeps it, that's the fuel. So you're humble because you want to protect that neshama. On the other hand, you know that if you don't protect that neshama, eventually you're going to be lunch for the maggots and the worms. A person that's humble understands what our tradition is, all the way from 3,300 years ago. Everyone knows that we got the Torah at Mount Sinai. Sometimes they call it in the Torah Mount Chorev. Now, if you ask a 6, 7-year-old, why do we get the Torah at Mount Sinai? 6, 7-year-old that goes to yeshiva, goes to Jewish school. You ask him, how come we got it at Mount Sinai? How come we didn't get it on Mount Everest? How come we didn't get it in the Rocky Mountains? How come we didn't get it somewhere else? The 6-year-old's going to tell you, no, because the Mount Sinai is the smallest mountain, it's the lowest mountain, and it's the most humble. That's the story, that's the midrash. I tell you a secret, it's not the smallest. It's a secret. Don't tell anybody. It's not the smallest. Reality speaking, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give us the Torah in such a low place, why didn't He give it to us at Yam HaMelach, the lowest point on earth? In some type of, mamash, under the ground, under sea level. If He wanted to give us the lowest point, why didn't He give us there? If He wanted to give us on a mountain, go to a nice mountain. No, what? Moshe Rabbeinu can climb. You saw he climbed 3 times. Without any tools, climbed the mountain. Shtabach Shimo. So if he could climb Mount Sinai 3 times, he could climb one of the other mountains 3 times. What's the big deal? If not, just give him a cloud, raise him up there. What's the big deal for it to be on Mount Everest? Respectable, big mountain, what? To teach us, Rabotai, 2 things. that although HaKadosh Baruch Hu values humility, and the Mount Sinai was indeed the humble mountain, He's always reminding us it's a mountain nonetheless. And if you want to learn Torah in order to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you will have to work for it. You will have to climb. You won't have to climb all the way to the top of Mount Everest by yourself. But don't expect it to be so easy that it's like walking down the hill. It's going to be hard. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help you. Humility is valued if it's used the right way. Sometimes the Satan arrives with something that appears to be humble. The guy has the appearance of a humble person. He smiles all the time, and he's welcoming all the time, and he says thank you when you give him a check. You know, he appears to be humble. He even tells you things like, you should love all Jews are special, I love you, I love you, I love you. And unless you don't agree that my rabbi is the Mashiach. Unless you don't agree that, our way is the best way. But he'll arrive to you in a certain way that, I love you, I'm humble, I love you, I love you. Unfortunately, the snake also said, I love you. The snake also said, I love you. And we have to know that we have to protect ourselves from the snake. Because the snake was a beautiful, extraordinary creation. He was the most beautiful animal in existence. Until Hashem changed how he looks. But he was absolutely beautiful, the snake. He came on to Chava, to Eve, telling all wonderful things, enticing her. He looked kosher. He looked like he knew what he was talking about. He mentioned the name of Hashem. He said all types of things that she heard from Adam, that he said in the name of Hashem. She heard this somewhere. It sounded kosher. But unfortunately, it was a snake. Sometimes the Satan comes to you as someone that looks religious, acts religious, but unfortunately is steering you wrong by telling you to go to church, by telling you to go against Hashem in one way or another. And this is one of the things we have to, Rabotai Yekarim, we have to get stronger on. Because countless people that I know are constantly falling for this trap of the Satan and simply believing anyone with a beard, anyone that sounds religious, anyone that mentions Hashem's name, and all of the work they did in the last year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years of tshuva literally goes to the waste in 1 second. Why? They believe some story, some fairy tale that this guy said, or she said, and she decides, oh, so I don't need to really be as close and work so hard for Hashem, or be scared of Gehenom, or be scared of punishment. No, Hashem loves everybody the same. So today we're going to try to understand what is true humility and what's fake. So the Ramban says this 4-step process. He says, "Veroshcha kafuf, ועיניך יביטו למטה, לארץ, ולבך למעלה, ואל תביט בפני אדם בדבריך עמו." He says, let your head be bowed, cast your eyes downward, your heart heavenward, and do not stare at your listener to intimidate or belittle him. The first few we discussed a little bit, but we'll do it in a different way, a different understanding. Here the Ramban tells us that there are 4 things that you must acquire, you must have, 4 signs, if you will, that a humble person must have in order to have any inclination of humility within them. They have to have roshcha kafuf, lower their head, be bowed. They have to cast their eyes downwards when they walk, when they speak to someone. Their heart always has to think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be clung to Hashem. But also, when they speak to somebody, never do what the number one recommendation in the modern world today is, which is when you speak to somebody, look at them in the eyes. That's the opposite of Torah. And you go, I remember when I was on Wall Street, it was very common to hear all types of self-help people, motivational speakers. All the guys that worked for me needed motivation sometimes. I would motivate them sometimes. I would suggest someone to motivate them. And it's very common for people to learn that when you speak to someone, to show a connection, to show that you understand them, to show that you are connected to what they're saying and that you're interested, look at them in the eyes when you speak. The Ramban says the opposite. Don't look at them in the eyes. So we're going to discover why. Why is the Ramban the opposite of what's recommended today? Isn't it going to make people uncomfortable if you constantly look in the floor when you talk to them? Do you really need to look in the floor the whole time? What, she's going to talk to you and you're going to give her your forehead the whole time? So we're going to clarify this. But already we see that the Ramban is suggesting physical behavior, not just mental, but actual physical behavior of how a person needs to be. Now, to have a roshcha kafuf, a bowed head, it's not only something that a person does for the sake of humility, but also it's tzniut. It's also protection. Arav Ovadia alav shalom, you'll see some of his pictures anytime that he's walking. He always walked around like this. And many of the giants walked around like this. And some people think that it's because he was old. But if you look at some of his older pictures when he was really, really young, he walked the same way. This is the way of Chachamim. This is the way of Tzaddikim. This is the way they walk. And one of the reasons is because the Gemara says that a person that stands up high with their stomach out, their chest pumping, they look up, they're walking like this is a sign of arrogance. And you're taking up too much space in the world with your arrogance, which means you have less space for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, Arav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, says that there's a mitzvah in the Torah that we may not even know exists until today, which is Besefer Dvarim, chapter 17, verse 7. It says, "Ubi'arta hara bekirbecha," and you shall destroy the evil from your midst. If there's evil, destroy it. You have a statue in your house, destroy it. A Jew is not allowed to have statues in his house, especially if it's a statue of a human being, full human being. You're only allowed to have the face if you can have it at all. If you have a full torso of a human being, not allowed to have it as a Jew. Not allowed to have a statue of a lion. Not allowed to have a statue of a bull. And also not allowed to have a statue of an eagle. But generally speaking, you shouldn't have statues. Shouldn't have statues. What if I like it? Okay, you like it. Shouldn't have it. Why? It's not good. Statues are not good. I know people use it for art and things like that. If it's one of the four that I mentioned to you, it's forbidden, outright forbidden. Because these are the images on the Kisei HaKavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. These are the four kings, if you will. The human being, the eagle, the bull, and the lion. So one of the ways that I remember years ago that was a little bit of a shock to my life was when my rabbi told me exactly what I just told you. He says, these specific statues, you shouldn't have it. I said, wait, hold on a second. You mean like a bull? He said, yeah, well, you have bulls in your house? I said, I'm a Wall Street guy. That's all I have in my house. In my house, in my office, the bull is the symbol of Wall Street. The bulls go up the stairs, the bears jump out of the window, there's all types of, sentences and things like that. Bull means the market goes up, bear means the market goes down. Every Wall Street guy has a bunch of bulls in his house, in his office, everywhere. Eagles even more sometimes. So I'm on the phone with him. I'm hysterical. I start taking these expensive statues and put them in garbage bags, bigger garbage bags. Why? I want to be close to Hashem finally. I'm not even thinking expensive, not expensive. Maybe I should give it to someone. Why should I give my problems to somebody else? So it was like a 1 second thought. No, everything's going out. Sometimes when you're on fire, you could do a mitzvah in 2 seconds. Big mitzvah in 2 seconds. Why? You want to destroy the evil in your midst. You have a non-Jewish boyfriend or girlfriend, you hear that it's not allowed to be with a non-Jew because you're a Jew, immediately. No questions asked. I don't know if she wants, doesn't want, I don't care. Honey, can never see you again. Click, change phone number, move. One guy I know, had a non-Jewish girlfriend, but he knew he had to get away from this. But he knew it's not going to be easy. Why? First of all, there's feelings. Second of all, even more than that, there's lust. Third of all, there's two personalities. It's not just him. Even if he wants to leave, doesn't mean that she's going to want to go. He heard what he had to do. One day he picked up, didn't tell anybody, picked up, called one of his friends. Can you do me a favor? Can you come to my house with your truck? Yeah, sure. Why? Just come. Just come. Comes to his house, puts all of his clothes in the truck, never comes back to the house again. Change his phone number, change the location, change everything. Why? It's the only way he can run away clean. He moved down the street, didn't move that far away. But she doesn't know he's there. Why? Because he knew that if he's going to talk to her, and she's cute, and he's cute, and they're cute together, Hashem Yirachem, they're going to be in Gehenom together if he continues. All the cuteness and everything. So rather than just, one step at a time, he says, no, I got to get out of this now. I already put myself in enough trouble. All the money I have went down the tubes, this, that, and the other thing. How do I get out of it? He literally picked up and left. Left all of his furniture, left everything. That's a person that's mamash zealous for Hashem. He wants to get close to Hashem and he makes a drastic move. Not everybody has such koach, such strength to do such things. But sometimes you do. To just destroy the evil in your midst. Don't try to save every little button. Sometimes you just got to destroy stuff. Sometimes you just got to move on. But Rav Moshe Feinstein says, there's another way to fulfill this mitzvah of destroying the evil in your midst. What evil? Your ego. Your ego is evil. Because your ego distances you away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The more ego a person has, the higher they think of themselves, whether it's because of their Torah knowledge, or it's their looks, or it's their money, or it's their heritage, or it's their gender, or whatever it is. The more you think of yourself, the less room you have for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your life. So Rav Moshe Feinstein says that one of the ways that a person can start destroying their ego actively is by having their head down and their eyes down at all times. And only use it, go up when needed. Because each time you walk around like this, you walk around like a humble person. Little by little, even if you still feel arrogant in the beginning. You don't just change your character trait overnight. But you're physically acting this way. Little by little, the neshama will follow. Little by little, the mentality will follow. Why? Because you're doing it for a reason. You're not doing it because it's more comfortable. You're doing it because you have the Shekhinah that you're thinking about at all times. Now the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot, page 105, says that when a person prays, he needs to look down. Sometimes you're going to see, you go to a Beit Knesset, sometimes you see a few actors. A few actors that think they're little mini Moshe Rabbeinus. What do? This stuff. They start looking at the Shamayim as if it's them and Hashem. And, they want to make sure they stand in the front so everybody can see them, talk to Hashem. Most of the time it's fake. Sometimes somebody is really close to Hashem. You don't need to rebuke anybody for this. This is just sometimes you see this. You see people doing all this acting in shul. Go like this, they look up the whole time. This is the opposite of what the Gemara says. Gemara says, you pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that means you believe He's there. Not that you believe He's in Israel. Not that you believe He's in Jamaica. Not that you believe He's in Australia. You mean if you're praying, that means you believe Hashem is here now. You're in a shiur, that means you believe Hashem is sitting right here with us. That's what it means. If the King of Kings is here, the King of Kings is here, you dare look up? Look down. Look down. What is it like? It's like a servant giving something to his master, giving something to his king. He's not going to say, "Hey, Your Highness, here." He's not going to do that. You know what he's going to do? Here you go, sir. Here you go, sir. Why? From the humility of who, the stature of this king, this flesh and blood king. You have the humility, the embarrassment you have, how lowly you are in front of him, you look down. So if that's the type of honor we give a flesh and blood king, needless to say, we have to do it for the King of Kings. That has no goof or no image of a goof. No body or the likeness of a body. Now Rashi says the reason why we look in the ground, on Gemara, is because it's the honor of the Shekhinah. We're honoring the Shekhinah. But the Ramban gives a chidush. In this letter, the Ramban says a chidush. Don't just look down when you're praying. Look down at all times. Now this is always dargot. Don't start tomorrow looking on the floor like this, like people are going to think you're looking for change. You get to this. You start with a little bit. You start with a little bit more, and a little bit more over time. A little bit over time. Don't go, I'm giving you, this is our goals. This is our aspirations. It's not something you could simply do overnight. It's better to go slowly with something like this, since it's a character trait, since it's developing your character traits. Slowly and surely over time, than going drastic moves tomorrow. You're walking around like this, people are thinking you have a hunchback or something, and then after 3 weeks, when you really have a hunchback, you say, the heck with it, I'm not doing it, you start walking around like this. Little by little, you grow to this, but I have to give you guys the goal. I'm not going to tell you, just go like this, or go like this. I'm going to give you the goal. And you little by little, use your brain, use your common sense to get to this. Rashi says that when we pray, we look down because of the honor of the Shekhinah. The Ramban gives a chidush and he says you have to look down at all times. Why? Because the Shekhinah is always here. Not just when you pray. And if you're honoring the Shekhinah, especially if you're a Talmid Chacham, especially if you go to yeshiva, especially if you go into a seminar, especially if you're somebody that's trying to glue yourself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're noticing and you're understanding that Hashem is always next to you. Now, the Gemara in Masechet Menachot, page 110a. And also, this is in Tshuvot HaGeonim, in Siman 178. It says that Rava, one of the sages, had 10 hanagot, 10 customs that he had, if you will. Things that he took on himself. And one of the things that he took on himself was to always have his head and eyes down to the extent where he would never see beyond 4 amot. 4 amot is somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 feet. He would walk down and he would always be able to see what's around him within 6 feet. He's not going to be able to see what's down the street. So if some modest or immodest or whatever is someone down the street waving to him, he has no idea it's happening. Within 4 amot of himself. That's how the tzaddikim walk. They walk that they see, they allow themselves. They don't walk down where they only see their feet. They see what's in front of them, but only within a short distance to limit any type of exposure to something that you don't want to see. Now, in the Sefer about Rav Wasserman, Alav Shalom, when he came to New York, one of the people that hosted him said it was unbelievable how holy Rav Wasserman, Alav Shalom, was. That when they went, he didn't know anything about New York or America or anything. But when he came there and they passed a certain street, he started getting sick. Started getting physically sick. He says, disgusting, filthy tumah in this place. What is this? What is this filthy tum'ah here? How do you guys live here with such tum'ah? He got physically sick. He said, oh no, Kvod Harav, that's Broadway. They passed Broadway, he fell. He didn't know what Broadway is. Why? He's not looking outside the window. He just got physically sick from literally feeling, being so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he felt the tum'ah in the air. And this is Broadway 80 years ago. Rahman al-Itzlan, if he goes there today. He doesn't think it's Gehinnom. Now, the host says it's the first time he ever saw someone walk around where he mamash always would allow himself to only see 4 amot at all times. That's how he would walk around all the time. So he was a big guy. Only allow himself to see 4 amot. His head was down, his eyes were down at all times to allow himself to do what Rava said. Now you guys think this is easy? You're going to start doing it tomorrow? I'm going to give you a little bit of news. After Rava died, his Talmidim saw these 10 hanagot, these 10 customs that he took on himself, their Rebbe, their Tzaddik, their Gdoladot took on. They knew they couldn't do, none of them could do all 10. So they split it among each other. You do this, you do this, you do this. Why? To continue the tradition of our Rebbe. So Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshet both took on the character trait, this minhag, or this hanagah, I should say, of only allowing themselves to see within 4 amot. After they saw themselves not being able to withstand this. It's not that they're looking chas v'shalom at women. These are tzaddikim. But it's so hard to constantly allow yourself to only live within literally 6 feet squared at all times. They started praying for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make them blind. That's what they prayed for. That's what it says in the Gemara. Rav Sheshet was actually blind. Became blind. Hashem fulfilled his will. Why? It's not that this Hanagah is not good. No. I need to do it. I just can't, Hashem. I'm just weak. So, but I, chas v'shalom, will never break the tradition of my Rebbe. So I have to. Hashem, it's better that you make me blind. This, Rabotai, is how difficult it is, but also how righteous some of our ancestors are. No tradition, no religion, no one in the world has such people in their lineage. Now, the Sefer Hasidim says that a person shouldn't walk around with raised eyes, because just like I said before, just like a servant is giving a dish to his king with low eyes, us that we're standing next to the face of the Shekhinah must always do the same. Now, a person that wants to gain the chen, the pleasantness of having anava, of having humility, must always have his eyes down and never walk around with an uncovered head. Never walk around without covering his head with a kippah, without covering our head with a kisur rosh. Never. You're going to sleep, you go to sleep, allowed, no problem. You're in the shower, no problem. Outside of those minor things, always have a kippah on. Always have a kippah on. Why? This is showing that you have awe of the Shekhinah. You understand that the Shekhinah is here at all times. Now, sometimes people that take on too much without direction, they make a mistake and they confuse the humility with lowliness, where they look down constantly, where they simply think that we are nothing, we are nobody, we don't have any achievements. The guy learns all day. Tell Mark, can you give me a chidush about Parashat Shavua? No, me, I don't know anything. Who am I, Bichlal? I can't say anything. Wait, but you learned all day. Get Shulchan Shabbat. No one else knows anything. Everybody else is just little. You're the parent. Say something. No, me, no. That's lowliness. That's anava psula, it's called. That is humility that's forbidden. It's forbidden humility. It's humility that's not real. It's humility that's not good. It's humility that's not healthy. That's why the Ramban's third step, he told us to have our head high, our head low, our eyes low, But he also told us that libcha lemala, that your head, your heart should be connected to lemala. First and foremost, you should know. Chazal says every Jew should say on a regular basis, the world was created for me. The world was created for me. Not just for me, but you say for me yourself. For you, for you, for you, for you. Not for all of you, for you independently. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed the world with such perfection, with a beautiful blue sky, with clouds that have rain to give more beauty to the world. And also, it's not really the rain that you get from the clouds, it's not really what's feeding us. It's the rain from the atmosphere. Point being is, he made this whole system for you. The flowers, you know how many beautiful flowers there are? You know how many different colors the flowers have? All of them, even if you never saw them, for you. Maybe one day you're going to see them. The mountains, the change in the land, how some are high, some are low, some mountains have snow, some mountains have grass, all of the different animals on them, different species in different places in the world. The same animal in different places looks different. Some are chasing people to kill them, some want to play with them. Some you can eat, some you're not allowed to eat. Some fly, some run, some crawl. All of this for you. All of this for you. Different faces of people. You see two people, even if they're identical twins, there's still a minor difference. Different people, different traits, different buildings, different creations, different thoughts, different opinions, different books. All of it for you. All of it for you. Meaning, you're a big deal in Hashem's eyes. You're a big deal. Don't think for a second you're nothing. You're a big deal. But that doesn't mean that you're allowed to be arrogant. It doesn't mean that you walk around thinking that you're better than everybody else. Because just like you say, the whole world was created for me, the guy that's standing or sitting next to you at shul is also supposed to say, the whole world was created for me. So what about if you have a little bit more talent than him? You could write faster than him. You can run faster than him. You can think faster than him. You can see better than him. Whatever it is, you have a certain talent that's better than him or her. Does that allow you to be arrogant over them? Absolutely not. Why? Arrogance is simply a confirmation that you do not know how to value human beings. You are judging yourself based on one tiny thing that you have that's better than the average person elsewhere. What about the rest of the human being? Do you have two eyes? He has two eyes. She has two eyes. Do you know how much money people that don't have eyes are willing to give for eyes? Any amount of money. You have a face? He has a face. Do you know how much money people are willing to give to have a healthy face if they don't have one? If they were born with a cleft lip, if they had some type of injury in war or accident? You know how much money they're willing to spend to get a healthy face? You have a face, he has a face. You have arms, he has arms. You know how much money people are willing to give for one arm, for one finger, for one nail? You have a brain, she has a brain. You know how much people are willing to give to have a healthy brain? To have a working brain? So you've analyzed your entire self and his entire self or her entire self on something minor that's a little bit better than them. What about the rest of the stuff that's the same or perhaps they're better at? Being arrogant simply shows that you have no idea how much a human being is worth. Needless to say how much another Jew is worth. Needless to say how much your spouse is worth, how much your kid is worth, how much your parents are worth, how much your chavruta, your colleague is worth. You have no concept. Why? Because you think because you can do something better than them, that means that everything they have is worthless. What is it like? The Baalei Musar give this analogy of an arrogant person. It's a fantastic analogy. Two wealthy people get together, they start chit-chatting. As you would have it, people that are wealthy like money. That's why they usually spend their entire lives chasing it. And one of the things that wealthy people like to do is showing off their money. I remember that any time I would go visit any one of my clients, first thing they would do would show me their glory. Their house, their business, their land, their whatever it was, their choppers, their boats. That's what people with money have. You know, somebody has to see it. Anytime somebody came to see me, I would also show them my house. I would show them my whole building. In the building I lived on Wall Street on the 35th floor. But before I showed them the house itself, I said, let me give you a tour of the building. I said, there's one floor that has a 7,000 square foot balcony. You can sit there like it's on the beach. And then there's a pool in the middle. And then there's a billiards table here. But this is just the beginning. Let's go to the basement. And the basement had a bowling alley, a pool on the ground with a chandelier that's worth probably $50,000, a safe from the early 1800s, a racquetball room, all types of things. You know, you literally had like a circus inside the building. And the gym was bigger than the gyms you pay memberships to. And everybody would tell me, wow, you must be here a lot. I'm like, no, only when visitors come. Only when visitors come, I show it to them. Other than that, I'm never here. He goes, what about this bowling alley? I said, it's good to show people. I never play bowling. Who plays bowling? Who has time to play bowling? But to show people, yeah, I show it to people. That's what rich people do. So two rich people get together, and they start talking. And they start comparing who has more glory, who has more money, who has more stuff. So one guy says, yeah, but you know, my new yacht is the fastest yacht. Says, yes, but mine is bigger. Yeah, but the building I just bought, the GM building in New York, I got it for a steal, but it's still the most expensive building in the area. Because, yeah, but I built the building in Dubai. But there, my car collection that I have 18 cars that no one else in the world has. The other guy says, I also have 18 cars that no one else has. And they go back and forth, who has this, who has that. After a few hours of comparing their balance sheets, and what he has, and what she has, what he has, they arrived that they have exactly the same number. One of the guys reaches into a pocket, opens a little matchbox, starts counting how many matches he has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 matches. The other guy got nervous. Started looking in his pockets. Found it. Box of matches. Opens the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Ha! I have more money than you. You're nothing. You're homeless. Pah! And he throws it in his face. You have nothing. You're nobody. That's arrogance. That's arrogance. That's arrogance. That's looking at as if nothing else that the other human being has is worth anything except this minor little thing, this little match, this little Q-tip that you have, it's better than him or her. What about the rest of the stuff? That's arrogance. Rabotai, that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu hates it so much. You simply took his creation and you've minimized it to nothing. Rav Moshe Feinstein, Alav Shalom, was well known for his some unbelievable humility. A person once asked him, Kvod Rav, how did you acquire such humility? How did you acquire such humility? He says, I worked on it for 36 years. 36 years, day and night, I worked on myself to acquire the trait of humility. Now, when a person understands the value of humility, he knows how important it is. She knows how important it is but they also know that it does not mean that you become a nothing. Not in the eyes of people, not in the eyes of Hashem. You still need to know that you're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're still extremely valuable. That's why it says, Lipcha lemala. Always connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is an example of this? The Steipler Gaon was known to do a lot of work around his house himself. One day, he was supposed to build another room in his house, or fix a room in his house. And the builders came and they left all of the bricks outside. And said, we'll come back tomorrow. So the Steipler says to his son, says, okay, we're going to bring the bricks inside. We'll bring the bricks inside, so no one, we'll bring them inside. No one takes them, they don't get damaged, so on and so forth. Let's bring them inside. Why wait till tomorrow? For the workers, you can save time. So him and his son start taking the bricks, and his son asks him, Abba, what do we do with the bricks? So the Steipler Gaon says to him, wait, you think that just because we're moving bricks, that gives you the permission to talk about mundane nonsense? Give me a Gemara, give me a Tosfot, give me a Chidush or something. While we're moving the bricks, that's just lemata, that's just our eyes being down on the ground. We still have to be connected lemala. Even if we're doing the mundane work of day to day, doesn't mean that we're disconnected. We're always thinking, we're always learning. We're always connected to Hashem. When a crazy woman arrived at the office of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, she was hysterical. She started talking about some conspiracy of how everybody's trying to kill her. This is much more common today, by the way. And she starts talking, and everybody wanted to say, well, this crazy lady. He says, oh, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein stopped everyone, says, no, let her talk. Let her talk. Gdol Ador. Let her talk. She continued talking for 2 hours. Imagine, the Moshe Rabbeinu of his generation is sitting there, as other people also, sitting there listening to some crazy woman with some conspiracy of how everyone is trying to kill her, and how this is happening, and all this UFOs, and all types of crazy stuff. And the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation is sitting there, he's listening. How can you become Moshe Rabbeinu? You're listening to crazy people all day, you're never going to have time to breathe. But as time passed on, some of the Talmidim noticed that the Rav, he's looking at her, but he's murmuring something under his breath. They got a little closer, and he noticed, oh, she's talking, and he's giving her the respect by looking as if, he's there, but in the meantime, he's reciting the entire Mishnah by heart. He's learning Torah. He's learning Torah, but he wants to give her the respect to do it. But they asked him for that, but why? Why do this for this woman? He says, that's chesed. That's chesed. She just needed somebody to talk to. She talked to him for 2 hours. He gave her a blessing. She went on his way. Baruch Hashem. That didn't stop me from being connected lemala. That didn't stop me from being connected to Hashem, learning my Torah. I could learn. But I still have to do chesed. When the Steipler's son, Rav Kanievsky, Shichyeh, asked his father, Abba, can I help you also fix some things in the house? He says, no, it's not for you. It's not for you. I don't think you could, no, you should continue learning. Because, but Abba, but you're doing it. He goes, yeah, I don't know if you could do what I'm doing. See, when I'm fixing the wall, I'm reciting the entire Gemara, the entire everything in my head while I'm learning. I don't know if you're at that level yet. You're still young. I don't know if you're at that level yet that you could do both at the same time. If you could do it, yeah, come help me. If you continue learning while you're working, fixing stuff, come help me. But if you're going to be fixing instead of learning, no, go back to learning until you get to the level where you could do both. This is the level of our sages, Rabotai. This is not 1,000 years ago. We're talking about Rav Kanievsky. He's alive right now, Baruch Hashem. You go visit him if you want. Steipler Gaon, just a few decades ago, in the 80s. I know that seems like 1,000 years ago for some of you, but it wasn't that long ago. Now, the Maharal, Netivot Olam, in his Sefer Netivot Olam, in Netiv Avodah, the 6th Perek, he says, in regards to this, in regards to having the eyes low, but the heart heavenward, he writes the commentary on it by saying that a person is obligated litavot el Hashem. He's obligated to fall in love with Hashem. You have to work on fulfilling the mitzvah that you say in Shema Yisrael every day. Ve'afta et Hashem Elokecha. So you have to work on yourself to fall in love with Hashem. But still, remember that you must still be like a servant in front of his master. So in order to do that, in order to fall in love with Hashem, but yet at the same token, understand that you're still a servant in front of your master, a person must acquire the trait of anava, the trait of humility, but never lose the understanding of having your heart connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your heart lemala, and chas v'shalom get to a point where you think of yourself as a lowly being, as a lowly nothing. Because what ends up happening, a person that has a anava, a humility that's flawed, where they literally become self-conscious, they get to a point where they think of themselves as nothing in front of everybody, that is a mistake. To such an extent that a person will lose his reward through his actions of merit. He's trying to do actions of merit by acquiring humility. But the humility that he's acquiring is unfortunately misguided, because now he's going to treat himself as a nothing. And anytime somebody asks him to, give us a chidush, give us some dvar Torah that you learned this week, give us a, maybe you arrange a shiur, maybe you invite a bunch of people to the shiur. No, I'm nothing. I'm just a new Baal Tshuva. I don't know anybody. What do you mean you don't know anybody? You know a few people. You have 5, 10, 20, 30 people. Why can't you arrange a shiur? Why can't you make a few phone calls? Why can't you call the rabbi and ask him an opinion on something? No, I don't want to bother. I don't want this. That is lowliness. That's pasul. It's not good. You have to know that you have a significant value, but that does not cancel out humility. Now, despite the fact that Rav Moshe Feinstein was so humble, one example that shows how humble he was is that there's a famous story of one guy walking in the street and starts yelling, Moshe, stop it! So Rav Moshe Feinstein was walking around and he turned around and he goes, yes, how can I help you? The guy wanted to bury himself in the ground. He wanted Korach and all of his friends to pull him on the ground with him. The Gedol Ador just turned around thinking that he was calling him Moshe. He goes, no, Kvod Harav, no, Moshe, my son. His 5-year-old son was running. Now he goes, why, I'm Moshe. My name is Moshe. Like, he didn't think of it as a big deal. Call me Rabbi, No, Moshe is my name. What's the big deal? So his humility was something unbelievable. But at the same token, there was one time that he wrote an halacha, and one of the Talmidim said, but Kvod Harav, Rabbi Akiva Igel, 100 years ago, contradicts what you say. Rabbi Akiva Igel, Gedol Ador, giant, also very, very humble. Rav Moshe Feinstein says, yes, I know that Rabbi Akiva Igel has a different opinion, and I disagree with him, and I'm going to have a debate with him in heaven. He knows the significance of Rabbi Akiva Igel and anybody that came before him. But he also knew that he has to fight for the emet. Sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong, but nonetheless, he knows the significance of what he's doing. The power of the Torah. So humility doesn't mean that you are not allowed to have an opinion, that you're not allowed to have your own mind or something like that. But again, opinion that I'm talking about is opinion that meets the rules of the Torah. Not just your opinion because you feel like it. Now, it's important to know that sometimes opinion is one of the tools of the Satan. One of the tools of the Satan to use in order to fool people. And that's why the sages were very, very careful before they accepted anybody's opinion. The Gemara in Masechet Yoma, page 42b, says, Rabbi Shimon Idid Arish. Rabbi Shimon is a Mishnah that's authored by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he expounded on a specific verse in the Torah. But it was based on his rationale. He broke it down based on his mind. So the Gemara says, who cares, buddy, what he thinks? Meaning, it's his opinion. Where do we know that we're allowed to say such things? He says, look, the Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia, page 115a, there's a debate. There's a debate between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Yehuda, two Tanaim, two giants, two mountains. Our oral Torah that we have today, if it wasn't for them, we simply would not have a large part of it. So now, they have a debate. There's an halacha that says that you shall not take a security, you should not take as security the garment of a widow. Now, this is in Sefer Dvarim, in Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 17, that if there's a widow, and let's say she borrowed some money from you, you're not allowed to take her garments, her clothes, as collateral. Because then you have to return it every day. You have to return it every day. And people are going to think, oh, you're returning it every day. Maybe you're doing something not kosher here. Why are you going to our house every day? They're not going to say, no, he's just returning this collateral so she doesn't have to sleep without this clothes. So she's only giving to you collateral during the day, but if she needs it at night, she gets it. So Rabbi Shimon says, yeah, but this is only relevant if she's poor. I'm sorry, Rabbi Yehuda says this is only relevant if she's poor, not if she's rich. Not if she's rich. Why? Because if she's rich, she doesn't need the clothes back every day. Rabbi Shimon says, no. Whether she's rich or she's poor, you're not allowed to take the garments as a collateral. Why? Because maybe you're going to go back and people are going to think that you're doing something with her. They say, Rabbi Shimon, where did you get this from? Makes sense what you're saying, that you shouldn't go back and forth to the house. But where did you get it from? You have a source? Because well, it makes sense. What I'm saying makes sense. Rabbi Yehuda says, I don't accept that it makes sense. Although it makes sense, who cares that it makes sense? You have to have a source. We need Moshe Rabbeinu to tell us this is it. Doesn't make a difference, it makes sense. Why? Because if we use just your mind, just your common sense, we're limiting the Torah. Imagine, Rabbi Yehuda tells Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, even though what you're saying makes sense, I'm not accepting it. Why? We don't analyze the Torah based on what makes sense. We have to have a source. So sometimes, Rabotai, there are certain things that make sense. But unfortunately, they're not true. One of my difficulties is that I have to be the bearer of bad news constantly about certain things that are very emotional to people. For example, last year, I think it was a year ago, when the Pittsburgh massacre happened, and the murderer killed a bunch of Jewish people, there were a number of rabbis that came out and said things that are the opposite of halakha. Where they said that, they got killed because they're Jewish, therefore that means that they died on Kiddush Hashem, they are with Rabbi Akiva v'chaverav. Disregard the fact that there was a homosexual couple having a brit milah in the Bet Knesset. Disregard the fact that there was a conservative shul that has goyim and Jews in it, and actually one of the people that died actually was a goy, not even a Jew. Disregard the fact that they don't keep any of the halachot pretty much, and they contradict Hashem on a regular basis. Disregard the fact that they got killed because they were Jewish, therefore they died in Kiddush Hashem, they are in Gan Eden with Rabbi Akiva. And unfortunately, a few really big, or well-known at least I should say, well-known rabbis said this statement. Now, we looked at the halakha together. What is the definition of Kiddush Hashem, dying on Kiddush Hashem? You look at the Rambam, and you see that what they said is simply unfounded. There is no such halakha. There is no such thing that if you get killed because you're a Jew, you're with Rabbi Akiva v'chaverav. You may be considered Augei Malchut, which is a high level, but you're not. It's not that level. But that's also, again, has certain conditions. We went over it. I'm not going to go over it again. People went crazy. Oh, how could he say that? That's so mean. How could you say that they died? What do you care? What do you mean, what do I care? There's an issue here, and people think that just because you died and somebody murdered you, you're going to heaven. It doesn't work that way. It simply doesn't work that way. There's no free lunch. No, what do you mean free lunch? They got murdered. That's not free. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, you cannot live your entire life being anti-Hashem, anti-Torah, mechalel Shabbat, mechalel Shem Hashem, and think you're going to heaven. It doesn't work that way. It simply doesn't work that way. I wish it did, because that would absolve countless people that I know from any sins whatsoever. But everything that we say must have a source in the Torah. So now, I had a debate, or a discussion, or an argument, whatever you want to call it, yesterday, with a Meshiachistic rabbi from Chabad. And we spoke for an hour and 15 minutes. We practically disagreed on every single thing. But I'm not going to go over the entire conversation, but one point that drives me insane. Forget about that he thinks the Rebbe is Mashiach, and he actually even thinks that he's alive, like in flesh. Strange things. Strange. Forget about that. Let's put that aside for a moment. I provide him a proof that the Rebbe himself wrote in one of his sichot that someone that died cannot be the Mashiach, but he completely ignored this. Forget about it. Let's put all that difference of opinion, if you will, aside. At one point, he says that he believes that anyone that went to the Holocaust, that went through the Holocaust, the horrors of the Holocaust, but didn't die in the Holocaust, lived many years later, 70 years later, like his parents, but did not keep Torah and mitzvot. Didn't keep Shabbat. Didn't keep kosher. Didn't keep nothing. Babkis. Because they went to the Holocaust, they're in heaven. So I told him, can you provide me a source? Please provide me a source. Where did you get this from? That someone that went through trauma, and I'm not minimizing the trauma in any way, shape, or form. You cannot judge these people, what they went through and so on. But the bottom line is to say that someone that experienced difficulty beyond any measure that we can understand is by default absolved from all mitzvot, and they continue violating the entire Torah the rest of their life, but they're still going to heaven. I need a source for that. Why? If I have a source for that, I'm going to make an entire series about it. Why? You could absolve millions and millions of people from any judgment whatsoever. The Bet Din of Mata judges, Bet Din of Mata agrees. If we have a proof for such a thing, I want it. I want to make a whole shiur about it. I asked for a source. He's a rabbi. He's a Rosh Yeshiva. Bapkis. No source. No, but I'll get you one. I'll get you one. Okay. I'll get you one. That's a big belief to have. He says, well, what? You think that they get punished for violating Shabbat? I said, well, what happened in the Holocaust is one thing, but you're saying they lived many, many years after. Now, he goes, yeah, but they're traumatized. I said, no problem, they're traumatized. Are they a shoteh? There's an halachic term for someone that's not mentally there. Are they a shoteh? Are they considered like someone that is a deficient mentally in some way? They're not able to count. They're not able to operate. They can't work. They can't speak. They can't understand who they're praying to. Is that? He goes, no. They're not shotim. Not shotim. He says anyone that dealt with some trauma in their life, if a little girl, Shem Yachem, somebody molested her, 9 years old, and she decides to make every sin under the sun for the rest of her life, she's going to heaven according to this guy. Pretty much, Rabotai Karim, the entire generation is going to heaven according to him. Alvai that he's right. I would love to find a source that he's right, but I'm sad to tell you, he's wrong. He's terribly wrong. There is no such thing. Why? A few things you need to understand. Number one, the reason why you have problems is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them to you. He gave you suffering for many reasons. One reason to help you do tshuva, one reason to wipe out some of the sins you've made. So if, let's say, for example, you arrive at the Holocaust, you arrive at the surgery, you arrive at this major disaster at 20 years old, okay, so let's say you made a bunch of sins until 20 years old. Let's say that disaster, that trauma, wiped out those sins for the first 20 years. Let's say it's that significant. No problem. But it doesn't absolve you from the continuous sins you make for the next 70 years. That's new stuff. That's new sins. You cannot simply absolve people from the Torah. So he gets upset at me. Oh, what? You don't feel bad for them? You don't feel bad for people? I said, what does it have to do with anything? Of course I feel bad, but I'm not the one that decides what the law is. He starts to play with your emotions. This has nothing to do with emotions. Bottom line, where is the halacha? Is there a source? Is there a gemara? Is there an halacha? Is there someone that said what you're saying? That just because you suffered, that's it. You don't go to Gehenom. You go to Gan Eden. He goes, yeah, but they suffered. I said, okay, fine. He keeps repeating the same thing over and over again. I felt like I was talking to a machine. Like I was just pressing the button. I finished talking, he pressed the button, it repeats the same thing over and over again. Same thing over and over. Give me a source, Ribono Shel Olam. We can absolve the entire generation from anything. Go, drive on Shabbat, go to the beach, into marriage, do whatever you want. You're going to heaven according to him. Now, unfortunately, not everyone is smart, is clever, and is as fortunate as you listening to it and understanding what I'm saying and how it doesn't make sense what he says. Because when he goes back to his class, he tells his young little students, his 13, 14-year-old students, all this hogwash. And since they don't have a different opinion, they don't have a different rabbi telling them something else, they don't have the wherewithal and understanding that they cannot simply decide who goes to Gan Eden and who goes to Gehenom based on the rabbi's word. You have to see it inside the Torah. So the rabbi says what he says, and he says, what? Doesn't it make sense that someone that went to the Holocaust, Hashem feels bad for it, so now he's going to put him in heaven with Moshe Rabbeinu? Doesn't that make more sense? Wouldn't it be really mean to send that person to Gehenom? What, you guys think that Hashem is a monster? He takes Hashem and he turns him into a monster. by saying there's no way that Hashem is going to punish this person for violating his entire Torah for 70 years because he had suffering 70 years ago. This, Rabotai, is unfortunately the poison that's fooling millions of religious and non-religious Jews today. Simply using our opinion, our logic, our rationale, even though it's irrational, even though it's not logical, even though it's not valid, even though it's not even intellectually honest, because it suits us. It makes us feel good. That just because the grandfather or the grandmother or you yourself went through some difficulty, therefore you're absolved from all sins. Well, guess what? Everyone has an enormous amount of difficulties in their own way throughout their life. No one lives a traumaless life. Whether it's a heartbreak, or it's a sickness of some kind, or it's money problems, or it's a divorce, or it's a child issues. People have trauma after trauma after trauma. If that trauma simply absolves you from the Torah, you don't have to keep the Torah anymore, chas v'shalom. Why? You're guaranteed to have trauma. If you're alive, you're guaranteed to have trauma. And it's not through your life, you're dying trauma. What do you think, people die by going to sleep all the time? 99% of people that die, they die in a traumatizing way. Some truck hits them, some heart attack unexpected, a brain aneurysm, AIDS, cancer, Rachmana litzlan, how many traumas there are. I read a statistic yesterday. They say literally over 50,000 people, 55,000 people commit suicide in America alone. 55,000 people, which is actually double the murder. Murder is like 25,000. Suicide is 55. So all the campaigns you see the politicians fighting about is about protecting of guns, so people don't kill each other. But no one is fighting about suicide. And then when you add on to it addiction, drug addiction, overdose, things like that, you're at almost 200,000. Why? Because it touches people's emotions when you talk about gun control. We can control it. We can minimize it. No one cares about the people that are out of control and commit suicide. And they're addicts. What gets votes is people that are anti-guns. But saving the people that are dying in much larger numbers because they have some type of an emotional imbalance, some type of an addiction, some type of other anguish and trauma, no, it's okay. They'll figure it out on their own at some point. It's the same thing like all of these fake campaigns, like we pretend like we care, like this Ellen DeGenerate. She decided that she cares about a bunch of monkeys in South America. So she raised tens of millions of dollars to save a few baboons in South America. If you actually took the money and gave it to the country, you'd actually save people. But no, we have to save the baboons from going extinct because there's only a couple of hundred left. Tens of millions of dollars were donated to save baboons. And hundreds of millions of dollars are daily being sent to save baboons and elephants and butterflies and all types of nonsense in the world. Why? Because we're not thinking with our mind, we're thinking with our heart. You're not allowed to think with your heart. It's wrong. When it comes to the Torah, there's no heart. There's halacha. What's allowed, what's not allowed. What's emet, what's sheker. Okay, we understand they suffered. I get it. We may be the reincarnation of them. Who knows? But to simply say something that's not mentioned in the Torah because it feels good, you are destroying Judaism. Because now the current generation is going to say to itself, a kal v'chomer. They're going to do a calculation in their head. Wait a minute. If Tati and Gemi and everybody else that from the previous generation that went to the Holocaust or went to some trauma, they didn't keep Shabbos. They didn't keep Kashrut. They didn't keep Torah. They didn't keep nothing. But the Rebbe over here says that in Gan Eden, okay, so I don't have to keep nothing. I'll keep babkis. Or I'll keep whatever I feel like it, whatever fits my life, because I'm surely to have some type of trauma in my life. That's the statistics. You're going to have trauma in your life. Everybody does. The shtuyot that comes out of people's mouth, but unfortunately these are sometimes the rabbis running the shul, rabbi running the actual bet knesset, the yeshiva, the bet midrash, and people don't know enough to ask, please give me a source. We don't learn this way. We learn from sources. Finally, I sent the guy a message. Please, can you please provide me a source that you promised to provide me? Forget the Mashiach, forget all that stuff. I want to know, is there the 13 principles of faith, are they still active or not? Because 13 principles of faith says that Torah is the same forever. It's never going to change. And one of the 13 principles of faith on top of that says that there's reward for the righteous and punishment for the wicked. Is this still active in your mind? Is there a way that we can absolve ourselves from this punishment? I want in. I want in. You guys want in also. You don't even know it yet. Everybody wants to be away from punishment. Can you please provide me a source that someone that had trauma, rape, Holocaust, whatever. I suffered trauma. I'm still suffering trauma daily sometimes. I want to know. I'm not going to go to Gehenom for any reason. I want to know that surgery that I went through, and another surgery, and the kaparat avonot that I deal with every single day, I want to know I'm not going to Gehenom just for that. Forget the Shabbat, forget Torah, forget Kiyuv. I want to know I'm not going to Gehenom. Can you show me a source? He sends me a story. He sends me a story about the Bob of Rabbi, that his Kiyuv strategy was very unique. He was a very holy man. And he asked a person that didn't look like he was keeping Torah and mitzvot to come be the chazan at his Bet Knesset. And he was the chazan at the Bet Knesset. And then a week later, he told him to come visit again. And he didn't come. So he sent his son to look for him. And his son looked for him. And he saw him smoking cigarettes on Shabbat. So he came back to his father, the Rabbi, and he said to him, Abba, he's smoking cigarettes, I'm Mechalel Shabbat. He says, go bring him, I want him to be the Chazan. Long story short, he went there, he told him, come. He said, no, I don't feel comfortable, coming at this point, I'll come another time. And he ended up coming another time, and he was the Chazan, and eventually did Tshuva. Long story short, that's his source. That's his source. I asked for a source of how somebody that suffered trauma is going to be absolved from all mitzvot. That's his source. Chabotai, I don't know what to do. If I ask the wall for a source, I may get one. From these people, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I could also give you a story of what a Mechalel Shabbat means. The Klosenberger Rebbe was a Ish Kodesh. He's one of the people that himself was inside the Holocaust. Himself suffered a pain inside the Holocaust unlike anything you can imagine. You read his bio, you cry at almost every page. 10 kids and his wife murdered in cold blood. 10 kids and his wife murdered in cold blood. He didn't give up. He continued fighting. He continued keeping every halacha inside the Torah, inside the Holocaust, inside the hell on earth. Shabbat, Pesach, Shavuot, Simchat Torah, Kashrut, better than all of us, kept the entire Torah inside the Holocaust. Inside Gehenom, he kept all of it. One time, inside Gehenom, on earth, he told everyone, we have to prepare for Pesach. He says, yeah, mitzvah of Pesach, the biggest mitzvah is to have matzah. Where we're going to get matzah? He says, we're going to get matzah. What? There's going to be matzah coming from the sky for the Rav. Please, I know you have emunah, but where the matzah going to come from for the Rav? He goes, we're going to get matzah. He had emunah mamash, like he mamash sees Hashem in front of him. Fire. Days before Pesach, there's no matzah. People are already beat up physically, emotionally, mentally. The Rebbe, the Klosenberger Rebbe, nothing changed. We're going to get matzah. We're going to get matzah. He had a belief like he sees it. And as a Kadosh Baruch Hu rewards those that believe in him and have bitachon in him, even inside Gehenom, he gave him matzah. There was an accident in the camps. Next to them, a big explosion. One of the planes from the Allies, from our team, bombed them, exploded a big thing over there, and the Nazis, Yimach Shemam V'Zichram, says, go fix it. And as they're going to fix it, they see there's a bunch of ingredients for matzah. So everybody starts putting it in their pockets, hiding it. Why? We need this for matzah, for Pesach. You have Pesach inside the Holocaust. But that's not the reason I'm telling you the story. The book is full of stories like that. I'm telling you the story because of something else. When they got all of this together, all of the ingredients together to make matzah, one of the guys that was excited, I want to do it, I'm going to help. I'll make the matzah. 18 minutes, all that stuff, I'll make it, let's go. He started making matzah. They had to do quick. They got the matzah ready? Rabbi, here's the matzah. No. I don't want the matzah. What? Matzah inside the Holocaust. People are happy to have a bread that's 3 weeks old. Here's the matzah for Pesach. No, you said we're going to get matzah. No. I don't want matzah. Why? He's a mechalel Shabbat. The guy that made the matzah is a mechalel Shabbat. I cannot eat his matzah. He didn't stop him from doing it. Technically, there is a leniency for others, but he understands, the Rabbi understands what's the significance of violating Shabbat. This person's a mechalel Shabbat. I cannot eat his matzah. He got, miraculously, a different set of matzah that he made himself. The point being, Rabotai, a person that understands their responsibility in this world to HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that when someone violates the Torah in any way, shape, or form, they're no longer considered the same as someone that's keeping Torah. They can no longer have the same destination as someone that's keeping Torah and mitzvot. You cannot go to Gan Eden with Rabbi Akiva, with Moshe Rabbeinu, with Aaron HaKohen, with any righteous Jew that ever lived if you do not keep Shabbat. And you die that way. If you do tshuva, ishtabach shemo, nature changes just for you. No one else is like you. Ashrecha v'ashrecha kecha. Hashem can even get to a point of changing all of your averot into mitzvot. But if you die mechalel Shabbat, you die without doing tshuva for eshet ish, for nida, for wasting seed, for all of these karet sins. You don't do tshuva for them. There is no source in the world that will allow you to enter Gan Eden. Why? Because that would take the entire Torah and turn it into one sheker, into lies. But unfortunately, the reason why people like to believe these fairy tale stories from these nice, clever, rabbi-like or rabbis is because it soothes their pain. It makes them feel better that Gami and Gempi and Tati and all of our beautiful, amazing people that lived 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but didn't keep Shabbat, didn't keep Torah, or are not keeping right now, they're still going to Gan Eden. What makes me feel good? What does it cost you? What do you care about agreeing? I'm sorry, it doesn't cost me anything. It costs me everything. It doesn't cost me anything. It costs me everything. Why? Because if I believe what you just said, that everybody goes to heaven, that means that the entire Torah is sheker. I'm breaking my head 24 hours a day for no reason. My entire life becomes meaningless. Your entire life becomes meaningless. All of Am Yisrael that's keeping Torah and mitzvot, for all of the generations, their life becomes meaningless if that's true. Why bother? Go to heaven anyway. But that's why, Rabotai, the habit of such people is to look at the people, to stare at them in their eyes, to intimidate them, to belittle them because they're young, because they're ignorant, because they don't know any better, because they don't want to challenge you, and make it seem as if you know everything, and you could take everyone out of Gehenom yourself on your shoulders. Isn't it mean for Hashem to send people to Gehenom? What do you think, Hashem is a monster? What do you think, Hashem is evil, that he's going to punish people double, both in this world and the next? And of course, every little innocent Jewish soul or non-Jewish soul will listen to this and say, yeah, it makes sense. Why would they go through the Holocaust or through cancer or through Rahman al-Islam, whatever they went through, and on top of it go to Gehenom? That sounds like a double punishment. Yeah, it makes sense they're going to go to heaven just for having cancer. It makes sense they're going to go to heaven just because they had AIDS. It makes sense that they're going to go to heaven because they had, personality disorder. They were really self-conscious. She was always had anxiety. She never had any money. He was really poor. He was really rich. He committed suicide. He overdosed. 1.5 million reasons. So of course Hashem is not going to give him such a bad life here and on top of it punish it. Rabotai, it doesn't work that way. The suffering that we have in this world is to get us to do tshuva. It's not the real punishment. The real punishment doesn't even begin in this world. The suffering that a person gets in this world, generally speaking, is simply to get the person closer to Hashem. Whether that suffering is in the magnitude of a Holocaust, or it's surgeries, or diseases, or money problems, or whatever it is, that suffering is to get you closer to Hashem, to do tshuva. Which means that if you do not follow that instruction set, that yell from Hashem, that cry from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please my son, come back to me. Please, my daughter, I'm going to put you through hell, so you pray to me, because there's no one else to pray. You're in Gehenom. Let me get you out. Pray to me. And you still don't get the message? You're not going to be rewarded for it. It's not possible. There was a yell, there was a cry, there was tears from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Spiritual tears from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, crying out to save the neshama of a lost Jewish soul. So he put him in a situation that no one else could help him. Why? Because when no one else can help you, what do? You cry Hashem. In hospice, everyone's religious. But if you still didn't call Hashem, if you still did not go back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even that didn't work. Even that didn't work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot reward you for failing time and time again. To say otherwise is kfirah, it's heresy, it's the equivalent of simply canceling the entire Torah. To practice such a understanding is simply practicing a new religion. It has nothing to do with Judaism. In Judaism, we have reward and punishment. Even though it's not pleasing, even though none of us like it, none of us pray for it, none of us want it, not for ourselves and not even for our enemies. To believe such a thing is kfirah. It's worse than believing somebody is the Mashiach or somebody is still alive even though they're not. Those things are just mistakes, confusions. You could even call it stupidity. But it's not kfirah to the same extent. Thinking there's no punishment simply cancels the Torah. But how do people succeed doing that every day now? By looking at you in the eye, smiling at you, and saying, what? You really think Hashem is going to punish so many millions of Jews? Your grandfather, your brother that you love so much, he was such a good guy, he was so funny, don't you remember? You think Hashem is going to put such a funny guy in Gehenom? What's he going to do there? What does Hashem get out of punishing people? What, does Hashem have to have a monster? That actually turns Hashem into a monster. That false ideology turns Hashem into a monster. But they do it because they do it subtly. They do it quietly. They do it in a way that they touch your emotions. They make you feel what they say. They make you agree to something that doesn't even make any sense. It's the biggest con in the world today. More than anything else, this is the biggest con, Rabotai Karim. This is a verbal and mental assault on Am Yisrael to such an extent that most of us don't even feel that it's happening to us. You have religious and non-religious Jews that believe that there's no punishment. There's only reward. And it's being taught by people with very, very nice, groomed and ungroomed beards. Long and short peot. Kisui rosh, no kisui rosh. All types of things. This is a tragedy because they're looking at you in the eye when they're doing it. So the Ramban says, when you want to express arrogance, that's how you talk. You look at people in the eye. You're so confident they're going to Gan Eden. So confident. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't confident he's going to Gan Eden. David HaMelech wasn't confident he's going to Gan Eden. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai wasn't confident he's going to Gan Eden. But you're confident everybody's going to Gan Eden because they experienced trauma? How? How do you have all that on your shoulders? Because you read a story that has nothing to do with it? That's how your entire religion, your entire belief system, your entire educational system is based on this? Stories that have nothing to do with anything? Who taught you this? Who taught you this Torah? A cookie in a Chinese store? Where'd you get this from? Rabotai, that's not how we learn Torah. As much as I would love to absolve everyone, myself included, please include me, out of every sin in the Torah, I would love to. I would love to. Imagine, you could just walk around sinless. Malach Hashem. You don't have to worry about nothing. Eat everything, do everything, be everything. No sins. Why? You had some trauma. You know what's going to happen? Everyone's going to run into moving traffic every day. Whoever makes it, I'm going to Gan Eden. Whoever doesn't make it, he's going to Gan Eden. Why? Okay, Rabbi said, if you have trauma, you're going to Gan Eden. You're going to start jumping out of buildings. You have trauma, you're definitely going to Gan Eden. Hashem wants your trauma. He wants your suffering. And I'll finish off with this point. I'll give you a re'ayah. I'll give you a proof that not only is Hashem giving you the suffering, giving you the Holocaust, giving you cancer, giving not you, but the people of the past died already, giving people diseases, giving people trouble, giving people anxiety, giving people money problems, giving people child problems, giving people all of the disasters throughout all of history. He did it and he wants it. He wants it this way. Not chas v'shalom because he's evil. Not chas v'shalom because he's a monster. But because he loves you and he knows that's the tool that's going to build you or break you. What's my raya? What's my proof? Proof is nothing less than the entire Torah. Adam HaRishon. What do you know about him? He lived over 900 years. 930 years he lived. What do you know about him? What's mentioned in the Torah about him? Did it mention that the Malachim were doing a barbecue for him? No, that's the Gemara. Did it mention that he was a giant, he was so big and beautiful? No, doesn't mention in the Torah. That's the Gemara. Is it mentioned that he had a wonderful vacation? He liked the beauty of things. He had a couple of friends. What did it mention about Adam Rishon? Trauma. Born, made a mistake, got punished, kicked out. That's Adam Rishon. Noach. 600 years we waited to meet him. 600 years he lived before we met him. We heard about it, he was born. Fast forward 600 years, and then there's the flood. What happened for 600 years? You must have done something. Noach, what, you just sat there waiting for instructions for 600 years? Said Ashrei Yeshvei Betecha for 600 years? What'd you do for 600 years? You play with a few things, you build a few things, you had a business, maybe you had a couple of friends, an argument, something, made a fortune, lost a fortune. What'd you do for 600 years? You know what Torah says? Who cares? Who cares what he did for 600 years? No, I know. The only thing that's mentioned about Noach, trauma. Noach, I'm going to destroy the entire world. You got a year. You got a year to build this ark. Get whoever you can in there that's actually going to do tshuva, which pretty much means your family. And I'm going to destroy everything that you know. Everything that you don't know. I'm going to ruin the whole world. Everything's gone. Talk to you later. Signed, God. Okay, went through hell, built this thing. Everyone was making fun of him. He saw the entire world destroyed in front of his eyes. We get sick to our stomach if we see a dead animal in the street. He saw people melt. He saw the whole world destroyed to nothing. If that's not trauma, okay, let's go inside the ark. What happened in the ark? The lion hit him, and he suffered the entire year he was in the ark. He suffered the entire time to the extent where he was spitting blood. Spitting blood in the ark. Okay, finally, okay, let's leave the ark. Oh, he's going to go on vacation. Let's see some good news. Good news. Mazal Tov, Noach. Chazaku Baruch, Mazal Tov, welcome to the new world. What happens? What do we hear about Noach? They have bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, wedding party. What do you have? He got raped by his grandson, Shem Yirachem. He tried having a drink a little too much, got raped by his grandson. Then he got Shem Yirachem. What happened to Noach? That's what we know about Noach. We don't know about any parties. We don't know about any marriage ceremonies. We don't know about any. What we know is the trauma that happened to Noach. Avraham Avinu, 10 generations later. What do you know about Avraham Avinu? What do you know about Avraham Avinu? Avraham, leave everything that you know. Where am I going? Don't worry about it. Arrives, starvation. Famine. No food, no drink, no nothing. You have pretty much your clock to live is running out. Fast forward. Fast forward. By the way, you waited 100 years. Okay, let me send you some guests. Let me send you some guests that right after you chop off a piece of your body, unlike anybody else before you. I'm going to send you guests on that day. But wait a minute. Chazal says that Avraham Avinu was a very, very hospitable person. Meaning, this is not his first guests. He's had guests for 100 years. How come we don't mention the other guests? I mean, what, they don't matter just because they're not angels? What, there's discrimination in heaven? Maybe there were angels that visited him another point. Like, how come these are the only guests that are mentioned? What, all the other hosting doesn't matter? All the other cooking doesn't matter? No. It doesn't matter. Not enough to be inside the Torah. Why? Because these are the only guests that he hosted while he was dealing with trauma. While he was dealing with pain and agony. That's what's worth a lot to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because that shows that you love him. If you get close to him through your trauma, through your difficulty, that means it's authentic, it's legit, it's 100%. But if you're only going to say Baruch Hashem when you win the lotto, who needs you? Even the atheist says Baruch Hashem when he wins the lotto. Fast forward. What do you know about Yitzchak Avinu? What do you know about Yitzchak Avinu? There's a couple of verses we almost never hear about him. What do we hear about him? One, he almost got killed. 37 years old, his father is about to butcher him. Why? For the sake of Hashem, mitzvah. Second thing is, his two sons are having a battle. One wants to kill the other. Yeah, that's a wonderful story. I'm going to put that on a nice greeting card. What do you know about Yitzchak? That's what you know. Yaakov, oh, Shem Yirachem, what a life. What a life. His brother tries to kill him. On top of that, he arrives at the number one gangster's house in the world who cheats him for 21 years. How come you don't hear about all the good he had? Oh, he had a nice date with Rachel. They had coffee. He made her malawach maybe. They cooked in the morning. Went on vacation for a honeymoon. Pop kiss, nothing. Right. Married the wrong lady. Stayed for longer. Got cheated more. Then finally left. Then, oh, okay, so I finally left this Gehenom called Lavan. Okay, I left. What happens? Oh, by the way, Yaakov, Esav's coming with millions of soldiers to kill you. That's what we know about Yaakov. Finally, you overcame that. Oh, Baruch Hashem, finally overcame it. Let's settle down. We passed Lavan. We passed Esav. Let's settle down. His daughter gets raped. Rachmana litzlan, that's what we know in the Torah. Every 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old reads this every year. His daughter Dinah gets raped. Why? She went to look at what the Goyot were doing. What business do you have looking at what the Goyot are doing? That's what we know about Dinah. The only thing we know about Dinah is this. Now, if that's not enough for you guys, what else do we know about Yaakov? Oh, by the way, Yosef, his favorite son, dies but doesn't die for over 20 years. And he cries. An unimaginable cry that lasts over 2 decades. You try crying for 20 minutes, you're going to start losing your breath. At an hour, you're going to lose consciousness. 20 years he mourns. 20 years he mourns the death of his son that didn't die. That's the life of Yaakov Avinu. That's what you know about Yaakov Avinu. You don't know about Yaakov Avinu going on vacation, having all types of inventions, building stuff. None of that stuff is in the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu, do I have to explain what happened to Moshe Rabbeinu? Before he even reached a half a year old, they already tried to kill him. He had to live at the Satan's house, Paro, just to survive. But then he tried to kill him himself. Why? Because he was defending Jews from each other. Then finally he comes back, gets thrown in jail by his father-in-law for 10 years. If that's not enough, he finally goes to Am Yisrael to go help them. What happens? They'll curse him and yell at him. Why'd you bring us all this disaster? And they don't stop. They don't stop yelling at him. They don't stop accusing him of being an adulterer. They don't stop accusing him of being a thief. They don't stop accusing him of pretty much every sin in the Torah for 40 years. That's the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what we know about Moshe Rabbeinu. You don't have a single verse in the Torah that tells you Moshe Rabbeinu went on vacation, had a good time, had some time off, relaxed by the pool, played with his kids a little bit, had some social time. Nothing. Nothing. There's nothing in the Torah that's not about trauma. That's not about difficulty. Why? Because those difficulties are what built us as individuals and as a nation. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Not that Chas v'Shalom, He wants you to suffer. Is He wants you to use the suffering to connect to Him. Because when He gives you no suffering, what do? You run away from Him. That's why there's a verse in the Torah, in Sefer Dvarim. Don't forget Hashem. What do you mean don't forget Hashem? After He gives you prosperity, don't forget Hashem. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu says to Am Yisrael. If there's a verse, there's a mitzvah like this, that after Hashem gives you prosperity, don't forget Him. What does that mean? It's a warning not to forget Him. Why is Hashem warning you not to forget Him after He gives you all the good? Because that's your nature, to forget him. After he gives you good. So what does he have to do? He has to give you bad. Why? Do you really think he gets a pleasure out of you getting bad? No. But he needs to in order for you to connect to him. To say that people that suffer or suffered do not get punished if they do not connect to Hashem and start following the Torah is simply contradicting the entire Torah from Aleph ad Taf. Because as you can see, the entire Torah is one big suffering, full of beauty, and a unique and extraordinary and beautiful way to connect to our Father in heaven that loves us more than we love ourselves. And that's why he's forced to hit us, because he doesn't want to lose us. The suffering is for our benefit. The suffering is because he loves us. He gives us suffering because he doesn't want to lose us. Because if he doesn't give us suffering, we will forget him, and then unfortunately he's forced to punish us permanently and disconnect from us permanently. So that's why he's forced to give us suffering. So we call out to Hashem, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Because we have nothing else. The money can't help us, the friends can't help us, the spouse can't help us, the kids can't help us, the rabbi can't help us. Nobody can help us other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is forced, because he loves us, to give us suffering, because he doesn't want to lose us. But if we still don't listen, and with such reshaim, until the gate of Gehenom, we still don't do tshuva, what do you want him to do? Change the Torah for you? Even if he wants to, he can't. Because that means that he has to become a liar to all of the others that did keep his Torah and mitzvot. And he's not going to do that. Because his signature is emet. His signature is emet. He cannot lie even if he wants to. He cannot change even if he wants to. He's so glorious and so magnificent and so unlimited that he's limited himself to not be able to change. So to say that there is simply anything other than what I just said that's true is a different religion. I'm sorry if that's what you've learned until now, but Baruch Hashem that you learned the truth today. Baruch Hashem that we learned the truth together today. Because now you'll know how to treat suffering from this point on. If it's suffering, it's difficult for me, that means Hashem wants my attention. That means Hashem wants to connect to me even deeper. A couple does not become a couple until their first fight. Not because the fight is good, but the fight shows them how strong their relationship really is. Are you going to give up on the whole relationship just because of a fight? Or are you going to figure out that we're going to fix this and get over this and overcome this despite the fight? HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, but he also has rules. And he gave us those rules in a love letter called the Torah. That Torah is full of suffering, but also it tells you, if you overcome the suffering, and you listen to the instructions, and use that suffering to connect to me, you will be like one of the people that I wrote inside the Torah. You'll be like Adam Rishon. You'll be like Noach. You'll be like Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, David, Shlomo, all the righteous people. Why? They suffered. They're in Gan Eden. Because they connected to me through the suffering. You do the same, you'll be in Gan Eden too. Be'ezrat Hashem, this realigns our minds to the straight path, to the path of Emet, and gets us on the path to get to Gan Eden. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.